But it's already quite full.
Do I start waving at someone?
I don't know.
I think.
There
I
we
would
go.
I would take my. Oh,
Whoa.
that's another light.
That's a lot of life, huh? Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Saturday afternoon Open Book Festival. I'm Qarnita Loxton and I have got the great pleasure of talking to three very talented, very clever, very rude, very funny authors. We've got Paige, Nick, in no particular order, Tom Eaton, whose book I brought, and Zibu Sithole. Okay, so from the popularity of these writers in this full room, and that I hardly did any advertising, I'm gathering that you all know everything about them. But I'm going to read their bios anyway because it's impressive and intimidating. So Paige is a South African novelist, columnist, and advertising copywriter. She's founded the Good Book Appreciation Society on Facebook, which now has over 23,000 members, and hosts the Book Choice on Fine Music Radio. Paige is the author of 7 books and has also co-authored A Girl Walks Into a Bar, a series of choose-your-own-adventure erotic novels. Her latest novel is Book People. You can hold it up. Paige lives in Cape Town with, and I'm quoting, no husband, no children, no pets, and far too many books. So Tom Eaton is also a writer and a columnist and has written 3 novels and 2 non-fiction books. So yes, serious and not serious. He wrote both series of the award-winning Shoreline for SABC, as well as co-creating the SABC3 comedy Those Who Can't with Alan Committee. He's the co-founder of highboard.com, and he's here with his newest novel that I brought, An Act of Murder. Tom lives in Cape Town with his wife Tanya and dog Honey. And last of our overachievers here is Zibu Sithole, journalist with more than 10 years of experience writing for TV and radio, as well as print and digital media. She's a published ghostwriter of mainly romance novels. The Thing with Zola is Zibu's first novel under her own name in 2023. This grew into a trilogy, I Do, Don't I, in 2024, and now Love Zola, 2025. Zibu lives in Johannesburg with her son. So you can find all of these writers on everywhere, Facebook, Insta, Twitter. They've got huge numbers of friends, maybe you also friends. I did read somewhere that Tom says he's got therapy bills as proof of being in all these spaces.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Not on Twitter anymore, but yeah, got the scars.
And so today's session is titled Why So Serious? We're talking about balancing lighthearted writing with themes that resonate. So these 3 make it look very easy, but it's actually very difficult. And I'm particularly curious about the thinking that goes into it, the inspiration, and also the skills that they have that make this particular talent look so effortless. And then to start us off, and because I don't want to, and I'm very scared actually of the whole spoiler part, and all of these 3 are on social media, and I don't want to be cancelled for putting their spoilers out there. I'm going to ask them to tell us as much or as little about their books as they want. Who will I pick? Zibu.
So my latest book, Love Zola, is the last in a trilogy that is the Zola verse, starting with The Thing with Zola, I Do, Don't I, and then obviously Love Zola. It is a rom-com styled series about a girl, well, a woman, who spends all her time studying and envisioning a life for herself in Germany. And then she runs out of options and finds herself back in the township of Vosloorus on the East Rand. That is close to practically nothing. And she has to start over, and starting over, obviously, has to start with a new man.
Paige?
I also want to write a book that's a universe, so I'm making a note to myself. I love that.
So Book People is it's meant to be a comedy. You'll have to read it and decide for yourself. It's about a bunch of book lovers, much like yourselves, I would imagine, who literally lose the plot. It's about how on social media, for some reason, the people who get cancelled and the people who do the cancelling, ourselves, tend to take things too far. Something about being on a WhatsApp group or being a social media brings out the worst in us. So it's about cancel culture and a bunch of other stuff.
Okay. Tom?
So thank you so much for bringing my book.
Okay. Don't mention it.
It's you did mention, but I should mention it again. And I will keep mentioning it throughout.
You didn't tag his own book, I don't want to say.
This book, which you brought today, the inspiration behind this was my publisher at Penguin saying, why don't you write a cozy crime book? And I said, sure, let's give that a go. So what I loved writing this book is, I think most writers are fairly thin-skinned and slightly egotistical, and certainly the stars of their own shows. And I just transposed that by a few degrees, making my lead an actor who I think, we all know actors, we love them, we adore them, but also quite thin-skinned and the stars of their own shows. So my main character here, Arnold Prinsloo, not Arnold Vosloo, that's an important wrinkle which goes very badly wrong in this book, is a struggling actor who finds himself the prime suspect in murdering a billionaire, and things go from bad to worse from there.
Okay. So you've said that your publisher asked you about it, and was that the inspiration for it, or was it just something that you thought, well, I must write this book for each of you? I want to know, what is it that made you go, like, this is a book inside me that must be shared with the world and not just live in my head?
I will answer very quickly because I think they've got much nicer answers than I have.
Okay.
I'm deeply and spiritually motivated by two things: deadlines and money.
Okay.
And I thought, my publisher gave me a deadline, and I thought, let's see if this sells.
And did they give you money?
We're still in talks about money. I haven't seen any yet, but we'll get there. Okay. So anyway, as I say, better answers here.
Okay.
I run a book club on Facebook, as I mentioned, called the Good Book Appreciation Society, and it has 23,000 members, and I too am motivated by two things, sales and money. and I woke up one day and I thought, imagine if there was a book about a book club on Facebook that had 24,000 members, because they say you should write what you know, and I'm a little bit lazy when it comes to research. And so I wrote a book about a book club on Facebook called the Good Book Appreciation Society that has 24,000 members. I thought at least if 1% of the members buy it, I might make a couple of sales.
So my intentions were a little bit more pure. I wrote a romance novel because I am tragically a hopeful romantic. Aww. And I am obsessed with love. And because I'm also socially awkward, I thought writing a book about love will make me friends with other people who are just as obsessed with love.
Has it worked?
Yes, it has.
Okay, so now we're at the point where this is a book you must write for love and money and books. And so I want to know, you've got to write this book, and so when did you decide that also I've got to be as funny as fuck? Or because we're now at a book festival, I've got here, do you consciously write for laughs, or does humor just show up in your characters? So this whole funny as fuck thing, I'm asking because you are all competent and talented and accomplished in writing in different forms. So I'm imagining you could decide how you wanted to write. And what was it that made you decide, I'm going to be funny, or does it just happen naturally, effortlessly? Tom, because I want to pick it.
It's, it just pours out of me effortlessly. It's just, it's my gift. It just comes out. No, it's, I think it's something that most writers figure out what gets them the most applause from when they're little.
Yeah.
And so, I always made people go, and so I kept going, and as long as people go, I keep going in that direction. And so, no, I'm being very self-deprecating, but obviously there are techniques and confidences you gain. And I think comedy allows you to do things that are freer and more fun, perhaps, than more straight-laced comedy. You can allow yourself to go in directions that are just fun, rather than necessarily serving the plot and themes and that sort of thing. So in this novel, for instance, I just thought, independently of the plot, I thought it would be really great to write the world's slowest car chase. They jump into like a supercar and go and chase the villain, but it's Joburg, and so he's stuck in traffic there, and they're stuck in traffic here, and nobody moves for 2 or 3 minutes, and then the chase continues on foot. So comedy allows you to do things like that are just silly and fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, I dropped your book.
Oh, drum roll.
Don't damage
Consider it a drum roll. You okay?
I'm fine.
With the book that Qarnita bought for you. So I don't think that I think that much about it at this point. In 2009, or back a long time ago, when I wanted to write my first novel, I really wanted to write a novel, and I tried to write a book for about 5 years, or a couple of different books, and I only ever got 5 pages in. I couldn't get any further, and I'll make this as short story as I can. I did a writing course, and we were told to tell the books that we were working on, and I talked about the book I was writing, and the woman who was taking, Sarah Bullen, who was taking the writing course, said, "Yeah, that's not your voice at all. That doesn't sound like you. I've only known you for the half a day you've been here, and that doesn't sound like you at all." And through this process, I kind of found my voice. And once I'd unlocked my voice, I can write novels. So I went from not being able to write more than 5 pages to being able to write. So that's as far and as deep as my knowledge of it goes. It's just my voice and what I what I enjoy the most, what I like to do.
And you asked earlier if your book is a comedy. It's definitely a comedy, and then more.
Thank you, that's kind.
Me, for a long time I didn't consider myself funny, because throughout school it was a note on my report. They write about your personality and your interactions and all of that, and they always described me as sullen. And now those same people who described me as sullen are DMing me on Instagram. They're like, "Geez, you're so funny." Like, not sullen anymore. So I write situational comedy, which is not intentionally funny. There's no punchline. It's just funny situations that happen more than you'd think in romance. I mean, the thought of deciding that you want to see and talk to a stranger every single day is quite funny in itself.
Okay, thank you for that. So while I was getting ready for this panel, I thought I had a clever idea that I was going to write down every time I saw something clever or something funny, and I was going to put little post-its in, and I was going to come here and flip it out. And then I ran out of post-its, and I gave myself tennis elbow, so that stopped. But there are a couple of things that, I've got some favorites. Tom described Spyker Null as someone with eerste taal attitude but tweede taal vocabulary. And I love that, because that in my house, that's me in Afrikaans, and we've all got the attitude, but we only know maybe the P word. Zibu characterizes Thabo as the kind of man who wears a hat in the house, and that's so my grandmother is there. And then Paige wrote this whole Harriet Blumenthal scene that I can't talk about because it will be a spoiler, but I was howling with laughter, and I wanted to hide under the bed with cringe at the same time. So anyway, there is a question. The question is, do you laugh out loud at your own writing while you're writing, or do you pat yourself on the back when something really clever is coming out? How seriously do you take yourselves while you're writing? You're like, "Oh, great, I'm so good." Shall we ask Tom, because he's still got my book?
Okay. So I just wanted to say, you were saying you put in post-its every time you enjoyed something, and did you run out of post-its? Yeah.
I read your book last.
And then,
Last.
Okay, I'm sorry you ran
Maybe
out of
she only
post-its.
read that far.
To answer your question,
Yes, you're patting yourself on the back.
through trial and error and experience, I've realized that the moment I laugh out loud at something I've written, it probably needs to be cut. No, genuinely, you can. I do sometimes find myself going, "Gosh, this is very clever," and at that moment, those are the red flags, because it's probably not that funny.
It's quite a unique skill in a man.
I must say, like, I might only have a fraction of that skill, because actually what usually happens is, I mean, full disclosure, I wrote most of this book, and then I gave it to my wife Tanya to read, and she read it and she didn't crack a smile, and then she closed the manuscript and went, "Okay," like, you know, we need to talk. Okay.
Well done, Tanya.
Yeah, so I don't have all those skills yet, but I'm learning. Moving swiftly on.
My experience is sometimes the reverse of that. So I write, and then when we go back and we're editing it, and I reread it, I put it away, it goes off to Helen, my editor, or it goes to my agent, or whoever it goes to, and it comes back and I read it, and I'll read a piece, and I'll go, "Oh," and then I'll write to Helen and say, "Did you write this? It's quite funny. Did you write that?" Like, I have no recollection. I do not know. I don't know. So I don't know.
Okay. It's like imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
It's extreme.
posthumously laughing.
So I think there's a lot of madness in people who make up fictional people and give them problems and then write about it. So the fact that I laugh and cry while I write is the least of the worries.
Okay. Okay, so even if you're not laughing at your own writing or patting yourself on the back, I can say that as a reader, like, while I was laughing and being entertained, you didn't make me think, all three of you, and you're all very skillful in touching on themes, not Batman, on themes and ideas that were very real and relevant. And I mean, between the three books, there's a shopping list, but I'm just going to pick out one of each so that the audience gets an idea of what I'm talking about, and also so that you know that I did read the book, and even though I didn't have all the flags, it was there. So, so, you know, within Tom's Cozy Crime story, I was very much drawn into this world of the extreme wealth of J.P. Mulder, who's the guy who meets the end of, in a very bad way, in his world of Mulderville. He's an insurance mogul, I guess is the word, and he's quite desperate to leave a legacy like rich men do, and contrast that with the world of Arnold, I want to say Vosloo.
Every time.
Everyone wants to say Vosloo, yeah.
Arnold Prinsloo was the struggling actor in the world of the arts, just trying to save himself and make a life for himself. So there was that sort of societal contrast that really stuck with me in between the laughs. And then with Paige's book, for me it was like an expose of what it's like to be a reader and a writer and a publisher. All the things that we gossip about amongst each other is hidden in there, and it was so funny. And just the way that people are online, on Facebook pages, compared to what they are like in their real lives, that's really, it's at the core of it, and it's quite a serious thing. So while you're laughing, it's there. And the thing about Zibu's book is that she writes about relationships after the happily ever after, what happens and what the expectations are on the woman and on the man, and the sort of traditions and expectations that we have within society. And she's very, very clever in that she touches on traditions like Lebolo, that has got a place in a changing society, and what that means for the families. And it triggers the thought in a way that is unexpected in amongst the lightness and the laughing and the crime. So, okay, I've done my bit, you know, I've read it. But what I want to ask the three of them is, how deliberate were you in these themes that you chose? And why was it important to you to touch on those things? Or was it just random and money motivated? Zibu.
Okay. So there are I do have serious thoughts. Like, I'm really big on representation and seeing black women being loved softly for just existing without earning it and the labor of love. So there was a lot of thought into that, and the topic of lobola often comes up in how to decide the worth of a person. Like, do I love her enough to marry her? Yes, but how much should it cost me? Yeah, she's brilliant, but 50,000 Rand, you know, that type of conversation. It's important because culture is ever changing, but lobola seems to have some staying power that other traditions don't, because people who don't practice culture, they insist on that one. And I don't know, maybe it's the love of money.
Paige?
You might find this hard to believe, but I'm quite scattered as a human being. And so, and then with all the cell phones and everything that we're doing, it's quite hard to have long thoughts about things. And so I'm also tend to just speak and type without thinking. And I wanted to explore how I feel about cancel culture. We're all, I run this page, and we're all just always, I feel, seconds away from potentially being cancelled. And I always wonder if it might happen to me, or how I would feel about it, and how I feel about the way cancel culture has become quite viral, almost. No, it's become quite viral, literally. So I wanted to have a very long thought about cancel culture and how I feel about it. And this book was a vehicle for that, for me, through the Good Book Appreciation Society, where I have had quite a lot of run-ins with authors on the page and members on the page, and so I wanted to explore how I feel about the situations that I find myself in.
Okay, well done.
I feel quite nervous answering this because I feel like I've got tweede taal vocab and eerste taal attitude, and I'm in that Afrikaans mondeling where you've been asked, wat is die temas van die roman? En dan, daar is die tema van die dood en die liefde, en hulle is universeel, dankie. So themes weren't top of mind for me, because working out a whodunit is quite a, it's a sort of technical, you're building a sort of sum or a Lego project, and then but in terms of the wealth that you've mentioned, I think that came naturally because, I'm of the age, I grew up watching Top Billing, and like being...
Dallas, not Dallas.
And being kind of morbidly fascinated by the absurdly funny wealth on display. For me, it sort of boils down to the marble, the sort of two porcelain whippets next to a dying palm tree in a sort of Romanesque foyer. And then of course I discovered the existence of Stain City, which is a sort of absurd thing plonked down on the Highveld. And then Mr. Stain passed away. Weeks after this came out, my publisher phoned me and said, "Oh my God, are we still okay?" And I said, "I hope so, as long as there's no foul play, we're fine." But no, I think the money thing was purely... it's also a bit of a trope in whodunits, the nasty old billionaire who gets his comeuppance. So it wasn't so much a conscious theme for me. But if there are themes, sort of deeper themes in my novel, it would be in Arnold's character, issues of self-sabotage and blaming others for your misfortunes, where really you just need to pull finger a bit.
Yeah, as I said, I only mentioned one, so I'm glad you brought the other. So talking about lighthearted writing, which is supposedly a style of writing, and I'm quoting from an unmentioned website, that feels easy, playful, designed to entertain or uplift the reader rather than weigh them down. But now, as we've now talked, lighthearted doesn't mean that you can't explore meaningful ideas. You can still, it's not all frivolous and shallow and meaningless. But my question is, do you think that people take light-hearted books less seriously because they're easy and fun to read, and so therefore maybe they were easy and fun to write, is the assumption, and that in order for a book to be taken seriously, it's got to be denser, harder to read, make you cry, make you want to slit your wrists. And so what is your view on that? Do you think that the books that you write, which I think takes enormous skill and talent, is less highly regarded in the view of the reading public and sort of the people that give awards out? It's deathly silence.
So
I think so,
I've got-
but
I just-
what do you
I've
think?
got so much to say. I'm just going to wait my turn.
I think I have 2 black marks next to my name because firstly, it's comic, and secondly, it's romance. There was a review I read online, I stopped reading reviews after that, where this guy said he was really surprised to find my book in 16 and up when it's actually a children's book. And I mean, this book has sex in it. So, yes, I think for people who read on a surface level, like have conversations on a surface level too, I don't want to say what I want to say, but you know what I want to say. It can seem frivolous, but I think comedy is the best way to get a point across because you could forget a whole long speech I make about morals and values, but if I tell you a joke, you'll be laughing about it in the car. You'll remember it at random moments, and the lesson sticks.
Yeah.
Look, I wrote Choose Your Own Adventure Pornography, so I don't think anyone's going to be giving me any literary awards at any point in any near future. So that's not an aim or a goal or anything. But yes, I do think people, but I think some readers don't. I think it's a yes and no answer. I think there are readers out there who see the value in it and enjoy having a laugh and see the value in a book and don't just see it as fluff. But I think that most do think that it's light. They call it light or a quick read. Yeah, which to me is a bit of a compliment. Sometimes it's a compliment and sometimes it's an insult. It depends how it's been kind of jabbed at you. But I do think that people just roll words off their tongues and make assumptions about things like chicklet or in every book I've ever written, the question has come, like, you've written this funny book, but it does have some very serious themes. And it's just the way things are perceived. But I do think that people don't think that it's serious, and maybe that's a good thing, because it's not. but there is heft in it. It's
Well,
not
it is
fluff.
that all 3 are seriously good. I think we can agree. I've been saving that one for the right moment.
So, I mean, the simplest answer to your question is, when was the last time an overt comedy won Best Picture at the Oscars? I'm imagining you probably got to go back to like Annie Hall in 1970 something. I can also guarantee you that a comedy will never ever win the Sunday Times Fiction Award in this country. Never. And there are all sorts of reasons for that, some good, some bad. But I do think that there is a belief among many people that art is pain. That somehow there must be a suffering on the part of the person enjoying, taking part. Forgetting, of course, that the participation with art is always a leisure activity.
Yeah.
But somehow, we've convinced ourselves that there are leisure activities and there are leisure activities. So when, I often see people praising a literary book and they go, oh my God, it broke my heart. I was gutted.
Yeah.
Like, as good things. I had the best time. This novel eviscerated me and left me broken and bleeding on the floor. 2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Whereas a comedy, they'll say, I laughed and laughed and laughed, but I didn't experience art because I didn't feel, I didn't have that heartbreak, which I think many people have come to associate with a valid emotional experience. I have my own little personal bitter theories on the matter, because you do experience this a lot as a comic writer. People do think it's easy. People do, and I mean, if you've ever tried to make a cold audience laugh, that is hard.
Present company, not
Excluded. You guys are great. Also, you're not a cold audience, you're a hot audience. It's difficult. But I do think people want to feel, I think people enjoy feeling bad rather than feeling good.
Yeah. Thank you. So there's not actually much more that I can say about how good your writing is. I mean, I can go on and get all the synonyms and stuff. But I'm going to make them read because I think that's the best part of the whole conversation. And I did not only just bring Tom a book, I also chose his passage.
It's like I missed the whole assignment. This is the high school nightmare. There's an audience of people, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do.
You're fully
things.
clothed, so it's half the nightmare.
But I'm naked under these clothes.
So please would you just read a passage and then we'll all laugh and clap and see how clever and funny you are.
Why don't we start?
It's Zibu,
Yeah.
you're the youngest and you're already wearing a spectacle.
How do you know she's the youngest?
She told me. She told me.
Because
She
of
says
how-
putting on
yeah,
her spectacles.
Yeah, and doing this with them.
It's like undercover Goko. Okay. Zozo, tell me how exactly you of all people married a pastor. Nomsebenzi said with a twinkle in her eye. Come on, it's just the two of us here. Mama, Zozo's eyes widened. Why is it so hard to believe? Of course, Zozo had heard all the gossip when Vusani had told the congregation of his intention to marry the new woman from Jozi. Some had said she'd used a love potion, others that she'd been sent by dark and destructive forces to lead him astray. Others had to admit that their pastor was just a young man whose blood rushed every Sunday at the sight of Zozo's well-rounded bottom, clad in the skin-tight dresses. You forget, Zozo, I changed your nappies, heard all your mother's complaints when you'd go out partying as a teenager. I've seen it all, but you've surprised me this time. I'm surprised too, Zozo admitted, and pulled a small bottle of cider from her apron pocket. Waiting to be chastised, she poured half of it into a glass, then paused. Then, when the rebuke didn't come, she took a second glass and poured the other half for her aunt. Nomsebenzi looked at Zozo thoughtfully before taking a cautious sip, then twisting her face in disgust. No way, Ma, you're being dramatic. This tastes just like juice, Zozo laughed. The things you kids do. Even married to a pastor, you're still drinking this.
So a little bit of context quickly. Norma is my character. She's 42. She's the youngest person on the stage. No. She was an accountant. She hates her job, so she quit her job to become the youngest intern in the history of publishing. And because she's got 42-year-old expenses and she's earning 20-year-old income, she has to get a second job. And so she gets a job at a bookstore, at a big chain bookstore. I hope Mervin's not here. And so this is, she's having a conversation with her manager, Keith, who's half her age. Keith handed Norma her employee uniform, a T-shirt with a franchise logo printed on the chest and an embossed metal name badge with a magnet on the back which attached the badge to her shirt. It's even brighter than I remembered, Norma said, sliding the luminous green T-shirt out of the plastic. It's so the customers can find you more easily among the stacks, Keith said. What's this, Norma said. That's your name badge, dear, Keith said as if she were an idiot. But this says normal. Keith looked at the badge she was holding. So it does. My name is Norma, not normal. The word was printed in bold uppercase letters in a clear, no-nonsense font. Who's called normal? We don't judge here. We employ people with all sorts of challenges from all walks of life. You case in point. Anyway, how are we supposed to know that's not a popular name down under? Firstly, down under is Australian, I'm from South Africa. And secondly, nobody anywhere is called normal. It's not even a name, it's a noun or an adjective, depending on the context. You had to fill in your name on the form, and head office would have gotten the information straight from there. So you must have made an error on your form. That's the only context I can think of, Keith said. Are you suggesting that I spelled my own name wrong? It's possible, Keith shrugged. No, I don't actually think it is possible, Keith. In your experience as the manager here, in a bookstore, possibly the most literate place on earth, have there been many employees who've struggled to spell their own name? Well, there's nothing we can do about it now, so you should probably just build a bridge and get over it, Keith said. I'm not wearing that, Norma said. Suit yourself, but you should know that there's a 10 quid fine if you forget your name badge for a shift. I'm not giving you 10 quid, Norma said. Oh, don't worry, Keith said, looking at his watch. We just lob it off your paycheck. Shift starts in 7 minutes, you better get a move on, Normal. It's 5 quid if you're late. I'm not normal, Norma called after him. No, you aren't, he shouted back over his shoulder.
Okay, so the reading this afternoon is taken from page 70. Thank you for choosing this one in your book. Again, a little bit of context. Arnold, at the very beginning of the novel, has been dumped by Zelda, who's had it up to here with his nonsense. He has then been accused of murder, and now he has managed to arrange a meeting with her outside her office because she will know what advice to give him. So this is their first meeting after he's been accused of murder. I'm glad you came, she said. Ending it like that, it wasn't right. I wanted to faint with happiness. There were things I wanted to say, she said. Of course, I said, my voice faltering. Of course. And then I need to tell you about what's happened. She silenced me with a look. If I was 25, she said, if I was 25, you'd be the greatest guy in the whole world. It wasn't what I'd expected, but I tried to look encouraging. First the sex, she smiled to herself. And then it just got better. And then I found out that you're creative, sensitive, playful, she gave a short laugh, and adventurous, brave. This was good, so why did she seem so sad? If I was 25, she continued, it wouldn't have mattered that you never have money because yet another director has asked you to commit to their vision of the role and you've stormed off the production. This was less good. It would have seemed passionate and principled, she said, but now, Zelda, I said, I really want to talk about this, but I need to. She held up her hand and I shut my mouth. If I was 25, she said, none of the stuff would matter, but I'm not 25. I'm not even 35, when you're messed up enough to think that maybe this is just part of being an adult. No, I'm 42, Arnold, and that means I know what I know and I want what I want. I glanced around to make sure nobody could hear us. If it's about the thing with the ropes and the wax, I said, I only didn't want to do it because it made my hamstring cramp. But everything else, I'm up for it, honestly. She looked down at the ground and nodded as if she was agreeing with herself about something. Then she squared her jaw and looked at me in the steady, uncompromising way she'd looked at me when I'd asked her if I should get a second credit card. What I want, she said, her eyes filled with tears and she angrily wiped them away. What I want is incremental improvement. I want this year to be better than last year, clearer, calmer, richer, happier. And to have that, I want a man who can meet me there, in the next place and the next, without spiraling, without backsliding, but just, my God, just having regular work, finishing things, working with life instead of against it all the time. I stepped closer and she let me take her hand. I understand, I said gently, and I can change, I can be better. But first, I really need to tell you about what happened on Sunday night, and, well, ask your advice, really, because it's feeling a bit overwhelming, honestly. She didn't seem to want to say anything more, so I took the plunge. I found a dead body. Her eyes widened. I tried to smile. I didn't know he was dead when I found him, and people saw, and now for some reason they're trying to frame me for the murder, as if I'd murdered J.P. Mulder. She pulled her hand free and took a step back. What did you say? I said I'd been accused, well, not formally. They didn't have anything on me to actually arrest me, and this morning the security guy told me I have a week until they start investigating properly. I think he was suggesting that I skip the country or something. She looked at me aghast. Obviously, I'm not going to do that. I said, I just need to talk to someone, and I thought you're always good with, planning and figuring things out. She held up a finger. Just so I'm clear, she was struggling to keep her voice steady. I've just ended our relationship because I don't want any more of the cartoonish situations you throw yourself into, to the extent that I'm not taking your calls, and you think, my God, you think the best thing, the thing that's really going to get me back, that's going to make me want to get involved, is to come to my work and tell me that you've been accused of murdering a billionaire. Well, when she said it like that. Always so good with the logic, Zelda.
Okay, so I have got a lot more questions, but I've also got 3 minutes left before I open to the audience. So I'm going to ask a very writerly question and ask about the writing process. Because I think when a book is easy to read like that, there's an assumption that it was easy to write. And so I want to ask you if you can just share a little bit, in maybe a minute each, about your writing process, and also if it's different for you when you're writing different things, because you all do write in different spaces and for different purposes. And what was your process for this book, and how different is it from how you write in other times? Okay, more than a minute, you can have it. Zibu?
Okay. So it depends on what I'm writing, because I write wholesome things and I write not so wholesome things.
Oh.
Yes. So I write literotica on the side under a different name, and I don't write that out in the open because I have a 12-year-old. But when I wrote this book, I did most of it in bed or at our shared desk where I write with my son who I homeschool.
Okay.
So the process is wake up in the morning, shout and scream, do a little dance, complain about everything, and write in between all of that.
Okay.
Yes.
Sure. Literotica across
Yes.
from homeschooling.
Erotic literature.
That takes skill.
Do you have a board? Oh, do you have a board up between? Glad it's almost over. I think I just broke the mic. Do you have a board up between?
I
you and
don't. So the spicier stuff I write when he is not within view, because there's also a lot of research. Because
Right.
things change.
Right.
Research.
Yes,
Yeah,
research.
research.
Yes, research.
Don't come in, I'm researching.
Things change, and there are terms that we learn every day. So
Okay.
yeah.
If there's a sock on the door, I'm researching.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how in this whole panel this is the hardest question for me. I work in advertising and I write other stuff and I write books, but my process is the same. I just write. It's just when I fit in all the
Okay.
different writing, I
Okay.
think. It's a good question, but it's a hard one.
Okay.
I didn't have a writing process. It was a sort of chaotic, like dopamine-fueled thing where I was trying to summon up inspiration, and then I learned there's no inspiration. You just put words on page, and then you go over them again and again and again. The only trickiness was at the time, I think some of this overlapped with a sort of telenovela I was involved with, and so you do find yourself bringing that to work. You know, you find yourself going, suddenly, I wonder if I should add somebody going, you know, that you are my secret child. You also find yourself doing a lot of dialogue, like the telenovela dialogue kind of spilled over.
Okay.
So suddenly I found myself, why am I writing 7 pages of dialogue about like making a cup of tea? Oh, because of that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I hope that I've asked the questions that you wanted me to, and that we could share enough about your books with the audience. But now it's their turn. 15 minutes, and who's got a question? There must be lots of questions. I've got lots more. Here's one.
Hi, thank you. Hello? Yeah. My name's Peter, and thank you, this has been delightful. But I was very taken with the discussion about, seriousness and writing funny stuff and being rather demeaned for that. And the thought that came to mind was around escapism. Do you, when you write stuff that you hope people will find funny, is that part of what you're thinking, that you're offering people something that is outside of the world, and the world is heavy and difficult and complicated, but I'm writing something that will help them get away? Or is that just an outsider's view of comedy, of funny writing?
Are you asking anyone in particular, or can I just pick a person? Okay, great.
I can answer. I focus a lot on writing black people for reasons. We need representation. I mean, it follows, and I'm black, so. And a lot of the award-winning books are about black suffering. When you see black people, you see the poverty, you see apartheid, you see legacy of apartheid, poverty, suffering, pain, crying, dying. And I do want to offer something different. So it was intentional to offer a soft love, an escape from the trauma, because even in our romance, there's a lot of abuse, and the romance is that she stayed while he fixed himself from being a mass murderer, things like that. So it is intentional in a way, but it is not a constant thought that, this is going to be a great escape from your real life?
Yeah, you're pretty much in my head. When I write, I disappear, I escape, and I think the world's a really serious, shitty place, and just about everything I write, in my own terms, not obviously in my advertising life, is trying to make people, help people escape and laugh, have a smile, have a moment away from all that shit. And so, yes, 100 million% what you said. In fact, you answered Qarnita's question better than I did with your question. Well, it depends what you're advertising.
I have a more self-serving answer, simply that I write the stuff that entertains me. You know, as a novelist, you get to write what you want to do, and so this entertains me. This comedy amuses me. I prefer comedy to straight stuff, and so I just, you know, monkey see, monkey do. I've grown up reading these things, and there it is.
Thank you. A lot of hands. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, I've got a question. My name is Akita. I think it sort of feeds on from what we were just talking about. My question revolves around settings and previous work you've done. How much of what you write is based in things you've actually experienced, and how much is purely imaginative? Because for me, I write, I feel more inspired by things I'm completely imagining, but then I wonder, is this actually authentic? Because it's not something that I've actually experienced. Just an example would be sort of like a workplace setting. If you're setting a scene in a certain workplace that you've yourself never been in, I don't yet have a skill to maybe create that or spin that tale. And just, comments on that sort of thing.
Paige, maybe you want to...
Yeah, you made me think. I wrote a novel called Dutch Courage, and it was set in a strip club in Amsterdam where all the strippers are celebrity impersonators. And I don't know why, because I didn't know very much about strippers or the industry at the time. I was just fascinated by it, and I went to Amsterdam, spent a lot of time in strip clubs. I'm researching in sex clubs and strip clubs, figuring it out. So I've written novels where I knew absolutely nothing, and then this novel, which is set in a world I live in every day, every minute, every hour. So a little bit of both. But then what you said is quite interesting, because within both of those is imagination, stuff that I didn't see. I didn't see a stripper in Amsterdam who's Dolly Parton lookalike. So you make that up with what you have. You do the best you can with what you have.
Yeah, I mean, for my side, about 4 or 5 years ago, I did Murder a Billionaire and got away with it. Yeah, thank you. I think, as Paige said, it's a lot of imagination, but grounded in some things. You know, there's that cliche that you should write what you know, and I think it's nonsense, because a huge number of wonderful novels would never have been written if the writers... I mean, ultimately, you have to go down... If you are literally only going to write what you know, then you can't write anything, because we can't know anything. So, you know, the saying fails on its own terms. But in my novel, I could draw on, you know, actors I knew and writers, frankly, who are just non-performative actors. I think... I mean, we're pretending to be clever here, but we're all just soaking in the spotlight. We're just going, So yeah, I think it's a tight combination of both.
I agree. Tom spoke about the ego and arrogance that comes with writing, and I am was a journalist, and that came with a lot of people watching and feeling like you know everything. So I feel like I know everything, but a lot of it is imagination.
So just like nonfiction.
Where's the next question? Here we go. Should I speak? Is there a mic?
Yeah, just hoi.
Oh, sorry, I missed you, but...
Hello, everybody. I'm standing because I'm nervous, so I get like silly nervous, especially when I'm sitting. So I don't really have a question, but I have 2 proposals. I would like to propose to Paige if she could.
Yes. Oh,
if she
sorry.
could give me. I would like to propose, or maybe to ask, for a job as a researcher, since you did say that you are slightly a bit more lazy to research. And I did catch on that you are really lazy to research, because with the name Normal, right? If you were to go to Zimbabwe, you are definitely going to find a normal, you are going to find a situational Sibanda, you're going to find instinct something. There's so many of, so that word, it exists. So I want to be your researcher. Okay. And then, second proposal, I want to propose to Zibu, a writing friendship. So I also write, and I love to make people laugh. Maybe not necessarily in romance, because I've given up, but more in politics and just everyday social issues. And I like to make people laugh about things that they would normally slit their wrists about, you know? So yeah, maybe add me to your friendship group. Let's talk. Let's do something romantic and write something together. Yeah?
The awkward girlies are up. You asked me if the writing stories so that I can find people who are like-minded is working.
Yeah.
Can you see?
But Tom, did you notice that she doesn't want to be writing friends with us?
Listen, I actually can't be hurt today after those 4 post-its in this book. I'm just one emotional callus right now, so...
I missed somebody's question.
Yeah, this question is for Paige. So your book sounds like it really reflects a huge part of your life with that Facebook book club. So my question is, I'm so curious what the book club people think of your book, because you say it's funny, but do they also find it funny?
Well, you should join the club. I have some free bookmarks to give away if anybody wants to know how to join the club, and it's on the bookmark, so come find me afterwards. There are some chapters and paragraphs in this book that are verbatim from the club, because you could not make that shit up, honestly. There's one whole chapter, a woman did a post, I'll make it quick, where she found a book, took a book out of the library, and she found somebody had crossed out swear words in the book. Somebody had taken the book out of the library and then taken it back to the library, and then somebody else had taken the book out and written in there, "How dare you cross out the writer's intention?" And these 2 library people had started, well, more than 2 people started having arguments inside this book. So she posted about it on the page, and she said, "I took this book out of the library and there's all this crazy shit happening inside the book, and it's not by the author." And then all the members of the club started commenting on how dare they write in a book. And I'd be like, "I write in a book all the time." "You are the devil, you must be a mass murderer. I'm a librarian and I would never dog-ear a book." "Oh, I dog-ear books all the time." And then they like scratch each other's eyes out. So there's a lot of stuff that's verbatim that I got permission to do. And then there are also, I really leaned into the tropes. I mean, I'm sure you're on a neighborhood WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
And there are every personality on there, the troll, the person who's like, "Let's be nice and let's be kind," and the other person who's like, "Screw you, I'm going to kill you." So I leaned into all the tropes, and I am curious whether the members of the club see themselves. Generally, people see other people but don't see themselves. So I think people have enjoyed seeing themselves, I hope, in the novel. I hope. But it's a good question.
I think we've got time for maybe one more question. Here in front.
I hope I didn't steal anybody's question. I was wondering, because we have, all 3 of you write multiple different genres, some non-fiction, some comedy, some other fun things. And I wanted to just ask, how do you navigate between choosing what you want to focus on and what genre you feel like focusing on in that moment, and kind of like the freedom you get from having a variety of options for you?
Zibu, you said you're doing some ghostwriting at the moment, so I'm going to ask you first.
I was quiet because now I suddenly feel less pure than I did in the beginning. Because You focus on what's going to pay this month's bills.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty deadline driven, same as you, I guess. So my advertising stuff, I don't have a choice. Today I'm working on BMW. Tomorrow I'm working on erectile dysfunction cream. I don't know. So that's just given to me. What I'm working on is given to me, and I do it. And then I just write most of my stuff is comedy, sex or comedy. So I don't really have to choose a genre. It's just what I write. So I think I just do. I don't think about it too much. When I get a project in mind and I'm ready to do it, then I do it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. I focus a lot on sex and comedy too, but I try to make time for writing as well.
And I think on that happy note, we'll leave it there.
Give you a happy ending.
Can I just remind you that the writers will be available and their books are available. Please buy them. They are brilliant. They are easy to read. They are serious. They are fun. But you can't have my copy because Tom's got it. But they will be ready for you. I hope you've enjoyed it. You've been a fantastic audience. Thank you very much.